Welcome! Check out the safety tips and be sure to subscribe to the channel right here. Thanks for watching.
I'm going to prove something to you in the next 60 seconds that will completely change the way you see the world around you. Have you ever grabbed a phone charger, plugged it in, and it just worked? Seems obvious, right? Seems normal. But what's happening beneath that simple act is one of the biggest silent control operations in modern history, and almost nobody knows it exists. Now answer me this. Why doesn't a plane assembled with parts from 47 different countries fall out of the sky? Why does the medication you bought at the pharmacy have exactly the concentration listed on the label? Why does your bank card work at a machine in Europe when you live thousands of miles away? 3 letters. ISO. This organization doesn't make the news. It has no famous president. It runs no advertising campaigns. But it silently controls the quality standards of practically everything you touch, eat, use, breathe, and trust every single day of your life. And here's what's even more terrifying. Without you knowing, without you signing anything, without you giving any kind of consent, you are already following its rules. So is your doctor. So is your bank. So is the factory that makes your food. Stay until the end because I'm going to reveal how this organization was created, who really runs it, why companies pay fortunes to follow its standards, and one detail about it that 99% of people will never discover. If you want to understand the world beneath the world you see, this video was made for you. Let's go. Picture a specific scene with me. We're in the 19th century, at the peak of the Industrial Revolution. Factories are exploding in number across Europe and North America. Steam engines. Assembly lines. Exports growing at the speed of light. Sounds like progress, right? But there was a massive problem about to bring all of it to a grinding halt. A bolt manufactured in England didn't fit a part produced in Germany. Equipment built in the United States used measurements completely incompatible with those used in France. Every industry had its own system, its own units, its own criteria. It was like every country was speaking a different technical language, and nobody could understand each other. The result? Absurd waste. Constant rework. Serious accidents. Products with completely unpredictable quality. 2 devices that were supposed to be identical could be totally different depending on where they were made. And it wasn't just industry. Think about hospitals. Syringes in different sizes that didn't fit the equipment. Medications with concentrations that varied from lab to lab. Surgical procedures that depended on the doctor's mood, not a tested protocol. Transportation? Railways with different gauges that prevented trains from crossing borders. Ships that couldn't use the same ports due to technical specification differences. A logistical chaos that cost billions and killed people. Then came World War I. Then World War II. And when the world emerged from those conflicts and ruins, global leaders realized something urgent. If humanity wanted to rebuild, grow, and trade on a global scale, it needed something that had never existed before. A universal technical language. A single voice capable of saying, this is the standard. This is the minimum acceptable. This is what guarantees that a product leaving a factory in Japan will work perfectly in the hands of someone in the United States. And it was precisely to solve that problem that one of the most powerful organizations on the planet was created, and you're about to find out how it happened. February 23, 1947. London, post-war. The world still smelled of smoke and destruction. And in a quiet room, representatives from 25 countries sat together with a mission that seemed impossible: to create an organization capable of unifying the technical standards of the entire planet. That day, the International Organization for Standardization was born. ISO. And here's the first detail almost nobody knows. ISO is not a perfect acronym in English. If it were, it would be iOS. But the founders chose the name based on the Greek word isos, which means equal. Because that was exactly the goal. Technical equality between nations. Simple in concept. Brutal in execution. How do you convince countries with completely different cultures, interests, and industries to follow the same rules? How do you get China and the United States, Germany and Brazil to agree that a certain process must be done a certain way? The answer ISO found was brilliant. Consensus, not imposition. Instead of showing up giving orders, ISO began gathering the world's top experts in each field. Engineers, scientists, researchers, government representatives, business leaders, and put everyone at a table to discuss, test, revise, and eventually, agree on a standard that represented the best humanity knew about that subject. The process is slow. It can take years. But the result is a standard that belongs to no country, no company, no government. It belongs to the collective knowledge of humanity. Today, more than 170 countries participate in ISO. There are over 24,000 published standards. And more than 800 new standards are developed or updated every year. But here comes the question everyone asks when they discover this. If ISO creates all these rules, who makes sure companies actually follow them? The answer will surprise you, because it's not ISO that does that. When a company says it has ISO certification, what do you picture? That ISO itself went there, audited everything, approved it, and handed them a diploma? Wrong. Completely wrong. And this confusion is so common that even management professionals get it wrong. ISO does not certify anyone. It does not conduct audits. It does not visit companies. It does not hand out seals. ISO's job is to create the standards. Period. The certification is done by independent bodies, specialized auditing companies that go to the organization, analyze processes, interview employees, examine documents, and verify whether everything meets the requirements of the standard. Think of it this way: ISO is the teacher who writes the test. The certifying bodies are the ones who administer and grade it. And the companies are the students who need to pass. But why would a company invest time, money, and energy to pass that test? Because the return is brutal. Certified companies have access to markets that non-certified companies simply cannot enter. International contracts require certification. Government tenders require certification. Large corporations only hire certified suppliers. On top of that, internal processes improve in measurable ways. Less waste. Less rework. Fewer accidents. More efficiency. More profit. And there's one more factor few people mention: trust. When a client knows a company is certified, they know that operation was audited by an independent third party. That processes were validated. That there's a system running underneath, not just promises. And among all the standards ISO has ever created, one of them became so powerful, so universal, that today it's used by more than 1 million organizations in 170 countries. You're about to understand why it changed the business world forever. If there is one document you need to know to understand how the world's most efficient companies operate, the document is ISO 9001. It doesn't talk about a specific product. It doesn't say how to manufacture a bolt or how to package food. It goes much deeper than that. ISO 9001 is about how to manage an entire organization so that quality is not an accident, but the inevitable consequence of the system. And here is the concept that changes everything. Quality is not the result of luck or individual talent. Quality is the result of well-designed, well-executed, and constantly improved processes. Sounds simple when I put it that way. But think about how many companies you've seen that ran on improvisation, where every employee did things their own way, where nobody knew exactly who was responsible for what, where problems appeared, got patched up, and came back weeks later because the root cause was never addressed. ISO 9001 eliminates that chaos. It requires organizations to map their processes, understand who their customers are and what they need, monitor real performance indicators, identify when something went wrong and investigate why. And, here's the most important part: never stop improving. This principle of continuous improvement is not just a requirement of the standard. It is a management philosophy that separates mediocre companies from extraordinary ones. And there's a statistic I need to give you right now. Studies show that companies that genuinely implement ISO 9001, not just to hang a certificate on the wall, reduce operational costs by 10% to 30%. That's not profit margin. That's money that was being thrown away every single day, now staying in the business. But ISO 9001 is just the beginning. Because while it was handling quality, the world kept changing, and ISO had to change with it. And the standards that came after touch something that directly affects your life, your safety, and your future. You woke up this morning, had coffee, ate something, used your phone, maybe drove to work, visited a doctor, made an online purchase. In every one of those moments, an ISO standard was working silently to make sure you came out unharmed. Let me show you the main ones, and the real impact they have. ISO 14001, the planet's shield. This standard covers environmental management. It defines how companies must manage their environmental impact, waste control, emissions reduction, responsible use of natural resources. In a world where the climate crisis is real and urgent, this standard is one of the most powerful tools that exist to demand serious, measurable, and auditable environmental behavior from organizations. ISO 45001, the standard that saves lives at work. Every year, nearly 3 million people die as a result of work-related accidents or illnesses worldwide. 2.3 million. ISO 45001 was created to reduce that number. It defines how organizations must identify risks, prevent accidents, and create work environments that don't kill their employees. ISO 27001, the invisible fortress protecting your data. This is the standard that matters most to your digital life. In a world where your banking data, medical records, and personal information circulate through dozens of different systems, ISO 27001 defines how organizations must protect that information. Encryption, access control, incident management, attack response plans. If any bank, hospital, or company that stores your data has ISO 27001, there is a serious protection system in place. ISO 22000, what guarantees your food won't kill you? This standard covers the entire food safety chain, from farm to table, from field to shelf. It defines critical control points, hygiene procedures, and ingredient traceability. Without it, you would never know whether what you're eating was produced with any minimum safety standard at all. And there are dozens more. For construction, for healthcare, for technology, for air transport, for energy, for pharmaceuticals. ISO is everywhere, operating behind the scenes. Invisible, but absolutely essential. But not everything is perfect. Because there's a dark side to this story that most people never talk about. I'll be straight with you, ISO has serious critics. And they make valid points. The first problem is what experts call facade certification. This happens when a company implements the entire management system, organizes all the paperwork, trains everyone for the audit, and then, once the auditor leaves, everything goes back to the improvisation it was before. The goal became the certificate, not the improvement. And when that happens, the standard completely loses its purpose. The second problem is cost. Depending on the size of the company, implementing a certified management system can cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Consulting, training, auditing, process redesign. For a small business, that investment can simply be unaffordable. And the third problem is bureaucracy. When poorly applied, the pursuit of compliance with the standard can generate layer upon layer of documentation, approvals, and procedures that in practice slow things down more than they help. That's why the best management experts all say the same thing. The standard is a tool. Tools don't work on their own. They depend on who's using them. A company that uses ISO to genuinely improve will reap extraordinary results. A company that uses ISO just to hang something on the wall will waste money and time. The difference is in the intention. And in the culture. You started this video without really knowing what ISO was. Now you know it was born in 1947, with 25 countries and an ambitious mission to create a universal technical language for humanity. That it certifies nobody, it creates the rules and independent organizations verify who follows them. That ISO 9001 transformed the management of more than 1 million organizations across the planet. That standards like 14001, 45001, 27001, and 22000 are working right now to protect the environment, workers' lives, your data, and the food you put on your plate. But what I want you to take away from here is something bigger than a set of facts about an organization. It's the realization that the modern world works because there is an invisible infrastructure holding everything together. Standards, protocols, quality systems, technical agreements that allow billions of people in 170 countries to produce, buy, sell, and trust each other without having to verify every detail from scratch. Without this system, globalization would not be possible. International trade would grind to a halt. Modern medicine would be far more dangerous. The technology you use today would not exist the way it does. And ISO is one of the central pieces of that machine. When everything works the way it should, you don't notice. It doesn't make the news. It doesn't become a headline. But when something fails, when a product kills someone, when millions of people's data is exposed, when a plane crashes due to a process failure, that's when you understand the price of having no standards. That's the paradox of ISO. The better it works, the more invisible it becomes. If this video opened your eyes to a reality you never noticed before, hit that like button right now, because it helps this content reach more people who deserve to know this. Drop a comment below. Which of these standards surprised you the most? I read every single one. And if you want to keep pulling back the curtain on the world beneath the world we see, the next video was made exactly for you. See you there.